Okay, in this group of questions, we are asked to find the exact value of each trig function. Okay, we're going to do this by using the unit circle. So hopefully you have a unit circle handy, or maybe you've memorized it or something to that extent, and you know all the points around it, or you have some type of a chart maybe that will help you, but memorizing the points is the easiest way to go. There's really only 5 you need to memorize. So if we're trying to find the exact trig value, we're not using a calculator, but we're using our brains. So 7 pi over 6 on our unit circle is a third quadrant angle right there. So 6 is 30 degrees. So we go 1, 32, 33s, 4, 5, 6 30s, gets us to 180. So 7 pi over 6 is 30 degrees past 180, which has as its coordinate points negative root 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. Okay, as the point that goes along with the 7 pi over 6 radian angle. And since the sine is the y value, that means the sine at 7 pi over 6 is negative 1/2. The cosine is the x value, and the tangent is the y over the x, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so the next one, is a tangent of 17 pi over 4. So we want to count 17 pi over 4s. So 1 pi over 4, hopefully you know, is 45 degrees. Because there are 4 45-degree angles in 180. So we have to count 45 degrees, and we have to go 17 of them. So there's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 45, 7, and 8. That 8 gets us all the way around. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 gets us all the way around twice. So 17 pi over 4 would be right here at the same spot as regular pi over 4. So at regular pi over 4, the coordinate point is x of root 2 over 2 and a y of root 2 over 2. And the tangent is a ratio of the y value divided by the x value. So y over x, anytime anything is divided by itself, the answer is 1. So the value of the tangent at 7 pi over 4 radian angles is 1. Negative 5 pi over 6. So now we have a negative angle. So we can talk about how we measure those. Negative angles go clockwise around your unit circle. And pi over 6 is 30 degrees. So from 0, we go 1 pi over 6, 2 pi's, negative 3 pi's, negative 4 pi's, negative 5 pi over 6. So negative 5 pi over 6 is at the exact same place as positive 7 pi over 6. Notice here it is 30 degrees away from the 180. So the x value at here is negative root 3 over 2. So cosine is negative in the third quadrant. Number 9 says the secant at 7 pi over 6. So once again, it's the same angle measure over there. So the cosine at 7 pi over 6 is negative root 3 over 2. And the secant is the reciprocal, so negative root 2 over 3. Which, if we rationalize, becomes negative root 2 over negative 2 roots of 3 divided by 3. Okay, this is how you're most likely going to see that answer represented. For calculus, this is becoming okay nowadays. So this is the best answer, where the one in front of it was good. Okay, cotangent at 7 pi over 4. So once again, that's 45 degrees. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here is 7 pi over 4. which has an x value of root 2 over 2 and a y value that happens to be negative. And cotangent is the x value over the y value. So this one over that one gives me a -1 cotangent value. So tan and cotan are negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. And cotangent and tan are positive in quadrants 1 and 3. Okay, the sine of 5 pi over 6 is 1/2, because that's the x, or rather y coordinate right here. Okay, closest one to the 180 degrees is always a 1/2. The cosine at 5 pi's over 3. We haven't done a pi over 3 yet. Pi over 3, you should know, is 60 degrees, because 180 divided by 3 is 60. So there's 1 60 degrees, 2 60 degrees, 3 60 degrees, 4 60 degrees to 240, 5 60 degrees gets you to here. So here is 5 pi over 3. Okay, which has a point of 1/2 and negative root 3 over 2. Okay, that's the coordinate that goes along with 5 pi over 3 radians on your unit circle. And since cosine is the x value, the cosine at 5 pi over 3 is 1/2. So memorizing the points of your unit circle is expedient if you want to be able to find these exact values quickly. Okay, tan at 7 pi over 6, but it's -7 pi over 6, so we'll make this one too. So we're going to travel -30 degrees. So from 0, we go 1 pi over 6, -2 pi's, -3 pi's, -4, -5, -6. -7 pi over 6 ends up right here at the same place as 5 pi over 6. So this is negative root 3 over 2 and 1/2 as your point. So tangent is y over x is 1/2 over negative root 3 over 2, which is -1 over root 3. Okay, which, when you rationalize, becomes negative root 3 over 3. So rationalizing means I'm multiplying the top and the bottom by the radical in order to get rid of the radical in your numerator, rather in your denominator, because once in a while, back in the day, nobody liked radicals in the denominator. Ooh, 17 pi over 2's. So we need to count at pi over 2, 17 of them. So hopefully you know pi over 2 is 90 degrees. So 180 divided by 2 is 90. We're going to count 17 of those. So starting at 0, you have 1 90, 2 90s, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Pi over 2 is right there at the same spot as regular pi over 2, which has 0, 1 as its coordinate. And since 0 is the inverse of the x value, or the cosine, the inverse of 0, or the reciprocal of 0, is undefined. So the secant at 17 pi over 2 is undefined. The graph has an asymptote there. A 19 pi over 4, that's a lot of pi over 4's. So that's a lot of 45 degrees. So bear with me while I count all the 45 degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It gets me back. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 is all the way around twice. 17, 18, 19. 19 pi over 4 is the same spot as regular 3 pi over 4. Which has a y value of root 2 over 2. Now, if we reciprocate root 2 over 2 and we do some simplifying, we get an answer of regular old-fashioned root 2. So the cosecant at 19 pi over 4 is positive radical 2. Negative 13 pi over 6's. So once again, we're going to count a bunch of 30 degrees in the negative direction. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 gets us all the way back around. So one more is right here, negative 13 pi over 6, which is the same spot as 11 pi over 6, which has a x value of root 3 over 2. Sorry, that's a root 3. Ooh, that's even worse. Root 3 over 2, positive is the x value down there in the fourth quadrant. And the last one, the sign of negative 19 pi over 6. That's a lot of counting again. I need to make these smaller digits. 1, 2, 3 negatives, 4, 5, 6 negatives, 7, 8, 9 negatives, 10, 11, 12 negative, 13, negative 14, negative 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So negative 19 pi over 6 is right here at the same spot as 5 pi over 6, which has a y value of 1/2. Okay, so in order to get these done fast, you really do need to memorize the points on your unit circle where the x value is your cosine and the y coordinate is your sine value.